Hello, welcome back to the Irish Tennis Updates podcast. Thanks very much for tuning in to episode 19. My name is Adam and I'm your host. Today I'm speaking to James Cluskey. James reached a career high doubles ranking of 145 and won 16 pro doubles events, including 2 challengers. Since retiring in 2015, he has broken the world record for the longest doubles match at over 60 hours and has founded his own high performance company. He also has a book coming out in the next couple of weeks. We talk about James's junior days, his time in US college, highlights from his playing time on tour, what it's like coaching Richard Branson tennis, his thoughts on Irish tennis, and much more. I think this is a really good episode. I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. So James, first of all, just thanks very much for talking to me today, for coming on the show.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me. Delighted to join you.
I'm looking forward to it. Now, the first thing I often ask people is what superpower they would choose. But I was doing a bit of research for this episode. I was looking online and I saw kind of a profile of you, and it said that your superpower was telling dad jokes.
What? Where are you seeing that?
It was Mason Alexander. I think it was on. You'd said that some.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot. But do you want to start with the dad joke?
A dad joke, jeez. What do you call an Irish woman with one leg?
I don't know.
Eileen. I tell you, you're definitely gonna have people who are switching off now.
I promise we'll get back into tennis now. I promise.
Yeah.
But no. So just how has kind of the lockdown been? The last couple of months been for you? During the lockdown.
Yeah, like it's been tough. Like it's I mean, it's been challenging for everyone. You know, it's I suppose everything has kind of changed really, and it's been tough in terms of, you know, playing tennis. I've started playing a little bit more tennis now the last few weeks, although it's hard to get courts and fits. I also heard you had Jane Fenley on. She books all the courts, so now I hit with her a good bit as well. But so yeah, it's been challenging. Then, you know, it's hopefully we're getting to this new normal now, and I mean, it's going to take time, but trying to be positive and keep going, and yeah, like it hasn't been easy, but hopefully we're getting there now with things.
Yeah. So in terms of work, have you been working from home and keeping busy that way?
Yeah, I've been working from home. Like, work for me has been affected. I was doing a lot of speaking in organizations, which is obviously gone at the moment.
Right,
so
yeah.
I've been doing a good few webinars, and I've been doing a lot of one-to-one stuff. So yeah, I'm ticking along. Like, and then I've been writing a book as well. So I kind of threw myself into that last few months. So that's coming out soon. First week of July, so I'm excited about that. And I suppose that was a real focal point for me, that when this happened, that I could really focus on that as well. So yeah, I've been busy, but it's definitely, you know, I do miss the kind of I miss the human interaction of actually going to meet people. Now, it's obviously Zoom and stuff is great, don't get me wrong, and that's helpful and everything, but I do miss meeting people as well.
Yeah. You mentioned your book there. What's it called, if anyone wants to go look for it?
So it's called Advantage. It'll be on my website, and then it'll be on Amazon. So my website's www.hccollective.co, and there's a tab there for Advantage. So yeah, it's around goal setting. I suppose the tagline is achieving your goals, or lessons in achieving your goals. The lessons that I've learned from sport and business. So I think a tennis player will find it interesting to read as well, no matter what age. It's not an autobiography. It's more lessons that I learned in my own career that I take forward into the rest of my life, and then also from the business people I've met and the interesting people I've met along the way as well.
Yeah, very good. So you mentioned there you're hitting a bit now in fits. So how big a role does tennis still play in your life these days?
Yeah, I love to. I mean, yeah, like it's you know, I want to play more actually now. Tennis is, I mean, it's been my life, you know, and I think when I retired, when I stopped playing professionally, I definitely went through a phase where I was a little bit burnt out from playing. But now, and I heard a little bit of Jane's interview as well with you. Like for me, I think it's more mental health than anything. Like it's like putting on a pair of shoes or putting on an old pair of shoes or something. It's like comfortable, you know. So
Yeah.
I'd go and maybe hit with Jane or hit with someone for an hour, and I literally think about my day. I think about what's going on in my life. It's almost like my happy place, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what it is for me. You know, obviously, I still like to compete and play and stuff. And you know, I'm on the committee for the IC club, the international club, and you know, we obviously play a couple of fixtures for them. I play a couple of fixtures for Fitz. It's definitely not as, you know, I don't take it as serious in my life as I did, obviously, but I still love to play.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we just go back maybe a bit in your kind of tennis journey, so to go back to the very start, where did you get into tennis initially? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I grew up in Swords, and my mom actually, she played a little bit in school, so she had an interest in tennis, so I would have been playing a little bit of tennis with her, a very, very small amount, and then I have an older brother and sister, and they were both in the Parks tennis program.
Yeah.
So my first memory of tennis has really been introduced to the Parks, actually. So when people ask me, I say, you know, I started in the Parks, which I did. I remember kind of summers playing there, and then I'd play with my mom during the week. And then it kind of went from there. It was in Swords Tennis Club. There was six tarmac courts. They've since turned into Savannah. But I, you know, joined the squad there, and then kind of, you know, then you start playing the tournaments, the junior tournaments, the under 10s and 12s and all that stuff. And kind of got better, obviously, and kind of went from there. Then you get Leinster squads, and you know, you just keep going. Like, so that's really that was my beginnings anyway.
Yeah, was there someone you looked up to when you were younger in tennis or in anything?
So my brother was playing. So I used to play a lot with him, actually, and he was better than me. He's 2 years older, so he was better than me. And so I think, I mean, I've seen kind of stats around, well, I don't know if I've seen stats, but I've heard anecdotes used around kind of youngest child is sometimes they're better because they're always, you know, they're always trying to compete with their older sibling.
Yeah.
So yeah, we used to play and we used to like fight and, you know, argue and all that sort of stuff. But I suppose I would have been trying to beat him. And then I just always wanted to be, you know, I always wanted to kind of move up the rankings in Ireland. I always wanted to be the best or be, you know, I don't know what I wanted to be, but I suppose I was always kind of goal orientated or driven to kind of move my ranking up, whether it be in Ireland, then obviously you start going internationally as well.
Yeah, no, you mentioned your brother there, and now he's someone that has kind of inspired you, you know, for throughout your life as well. So just would you mind telling me a little bit about his story?
Yeah, so he was a good tennis player. He also played, and then we went to Belvedere. He was 2 years older. He played rugby there a little bit, and he was quite sporty. Like, and then when he was 17, I was 15. He had a spinal injury accident, and so he was paralyzed from the neck down, which, I mean, is a traumatic experience for anyone, and was obviously an incredibly challenging time for our family. And but I think, you know, so he's inspiring to me now. You know, he has his own company, and he's done a TED talk, and he's, you know, he's doing really well. But I think it did have a huge impact on my life, and it had a huge impact on my tennis. You know, I went from being probably, you know, I was the youngest, spoiled, kind of tennis was, I don't know if I was the focal point of the family, but like, you know, when he had his accident, you know, my parents were obviously in the rehab hospital for over a year, like, and I think tennis was my escape almost, you know. It was like again, back to the mental health thing. I think I threw myself into playing and into competing, and I just spent all my time at a tennis club because that was kind of my happy place, and I guess it was a coping mechanism as well, you know. So, and then I was lucky, you know, in terms of the tennis community. Like, my coach Larry Jervich, who was running the squad in Westwood, like, he was very good to me. You know, he would drop me home, and, you know, because obviously my parents just weren't there really. and then Ray McLaughlin. So Darren McLaughlin, who's in my age group growing up, who's a friend of mine. Ray, his dad, used to drop me home as well. So, you know, a lot of people kind of rally around you as well. But I think in terms of his accident, it definitely had a huge impact on my tennis. And then it also had a huge impact on, I guess, my philosophy for life and how life is short. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You have to enjoy life. You have to, you know, you just don't know what's around the corner. So it definitely shaped a lot of who I am.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good story. It's a great story. But how would you then sum up your junior days playing? Do you make some overriding memories from that?
Junior days, override memories would be Fitz under 18. So I won Fitz under 18, which was a big thing at the time. It's funny, like when in hindsight, like it's, you know, I know it means a lot to a lot of people, but like, and it does mean a lot to me, but at the time it's like, geez, it's like everything, you know.
Yeah.
But I beat James McGee in the final, who was a rival and a friend, and I think 7-5 in the third. I was down a set in 3-1.
Wow.
So that's kind of a good memory. I'd lost to him 2 weeks previously in the semi-finals of Lansdowne Money Tournament, 7-6 in the third. So we were like obviously very close, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's a big memory. I mean, I think I went through a phase where, you know, under 10, I was, you know, probably number 2. Under 12, I was always in the top 4. Then under 14, I think as I started to grow a lot, I started getting more injuries, and, you know, I think my ranking was starting to drop a little bit. And then I think the biggest thing that happened was Westwood Clontarf opening. Larry obviously taking out, Larry Jervich coming and coaching there. You know, kind of the stars aligned with all that stuff, really.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously with Stephen's accident, then I was training my ass off as well. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, those are kind of my memories. But I loved it. Like, I mean, it's best days, you know.
Yeah. You know, I know then you went off to college in Louisiana in the States after school. So how did you make that decision to go? How easy was that decision for you?
Yeah, like it was pretty easy, to be honest. I mean, I think, you know, a lot of players go to college in the States, and I'd be pretty vocal on that. I think going to college is the best option for players. So my intention was always to go to college. I never thought of not going to college in the States.
Yeah.
You know, I know people can say you've better options or you've other options these days in terms of, you know, well, I suppose now with the pandemic, but online courses and all that stuff. But for me, college tennis was phenomenal. Like, so I went to Indiana on a recruiting trip. I went to Pepperdine, then I went to LSU, Louisiana. And look, I spent 4 years there in, you know, 40-degree heat and training really hard, and absolutely loved it. You know, I was at a top 10 college. I also think when people are kind of in this decision of whether to go to college or go pro, like, you know, in college, I played Isner a couple of times. I played Kevin Anderson, played Jesse Levine, played all these guys. And look, John Isner was 4 years at Georgia, and he's had a pretty decent tennis career, right? So, you know, I think I like futures is hard and challengers is hard. Like, it's a long road, and I think it was a friend of mine said, you know, most people have probably a 4 or 5 year window, give or take, to play professionally. Are you better to do that at 18, or are you better to do that when you're 22? Like, so for me, it's a no brainer. Like, you know, actually, and sorry, I don't mean to keep rambling, but like, I would have, Tennis Sangren would have been a you know, a friend of mine on the tour, on the Challenger Tour. Yeah, he played at Tennessee as well. Like, he's had a decent career. He's having a decent career. So,
absolutely.
You know, I think it's a good route for Irish players, and in my opinion, it's the best route.
Yeah, I mean, you do see a lot of people going off that way at the moment. But I know that you had a really successful time there. You got up to 3 in the country and in doubles. So what are your best memories from college?
I mean, the team stuff is amazing, right? Like, you know, it's, you know, yeah, I mean, it's pressure. Like my best memories are, I suppose, playing under that intense pressure where you're playing for a team. And essentially, I mean, there was 12 or 14 guys in the team. You're with 12. You know, you've got 12 mates who you do
Yeah.
everything with. So, my best memories is playing dual matches for LSU against Georgia, against the likes of Isner, or when we played Illinois. We actually beat Illinois. We, myself and Ken Skupski, who's still doing well in doubles now, we lost in the doubles to Kevin Anderson and Ryan Rowe. We got beaten fairly comfortably. And then we won the match overall 4-3, and I actually clinched the match. So stuff like that, I mean, you don't forget that easily, you know. And you know, even like, you know, I don't remember winning a lot of you know, I was lucky enough to win some futures, but I don't really remember winning those futures as much as I remember winning college matches, or even losing college matches when the team wins, you know.
Yeah. That's interesting that, you know, that was the team environments was something that you really took to and you really enjoyed when you were there.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. I mean, and look, for me, like, you know, one of the big things is, you know, getting around good people and surrounding yourself with good people. And I think I was very lucky that, you know, in the junior days, you know, we had Larry, was a good coach, and then James McGee was doing well, and he kind of pushed me along because I wanted to be as good as him. So, you know, and then Darren McLaughlin was very good, Dara Rowan, all these guys. There was a great kind of culture of, I suppose, a culture of performance where everyone was pushing each other along. And you kind of, you know, you have rivalry. I mean, at LSU, I'm competing for my spot on the team, right? But it's a healthy rivalry. And at LSU now, when I look, you know, I did okay playing professionally, but Mike Venus won the French Open, who was one of my doubles partners. Ken Skupski's won ATP events, and he's won Commonwealth medals and done really well. Neil Skupski is doing really well. He's playing with Jamie Murray now. So, yeah, I was very, very lucky that I you know, I lived with all those guys and played with them as well. So.
Yeah, do you think there's any lessons you learned while in college that have really stood to you and served you well since then?
It's funny, actually. I was having this conversation with someone last week. We were talking about what sport teaches you, and for me, one of the big things is time and time management. Okay. So, you know, I would always have been pretty good on time, to be fair, like, but to my detriment sometimes. But when I was at LSU, if you were late for anything, so if you were late, the whole team basically ran, you know. So so you just weren't late because it was impossible to be late. So like that's completely stayed with me. Like, you know, we're having this call now. You know, I will not be late for a call. I will not be late for anything. You know, obviously stuff happens, and from time to time, you know, stuff gets in the way, and that's, you know, that's fine. But like 99% of the time, like, I will honor a commitment. If I say I'm going to be on time, I'll be on time. So, and I think that really stems from college. And then the other thing is, I suppose, the work ethic you learn, and being able to kind of balance everything, because obviously you're going to class as well, right? And you have these, you know, long practices, and so I suppose the work ethic that I would have picked up, and I think it really helped me on the Pro Tour. I think one thing that helped me on the Pro Tour was actually training somewhere for years that is a really hot place, you know, because then when I started going on the tour and I went to hot countries, it didn't really affect me as much.
Yeah, no, I just want to come on then to kind of your time playing pro. So did you go to pro straight away after college? Was it pretty much?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, yeah, like I used to play the summers actually. Right. When I was in college, I played the summers, and I was like, I got ATP points when I was in college. I actually, so I played Davis Cup after my freshman year. Was my first cap in Davis Cup. Right. I played doubles against Slovenia, but then I think I had 1 point. Then maybe I had 1 point, from the futures, and then my sophomore year, so my second year, or was it my junior year? I can't remember which one. I played the three. I think there was two. Was there 3 futures now? 2 futures and a challenger maybe, and I had like a quarters two quarterfinals, and then I went to Armenia and Georgia for some futures. I went with Peter Clark actually and James McGee, and I made the semi-finals in Armenia, and then I made the quarters. And this is in singles now.
Yeah.
I made the quarters in Georgia, and then the quarters the second week in Georgia. But I actually broke my wrist in the second round match, so I fell. It was actually quite a funny story. It was a tie-break second set. I played this Russian guy, and it was tie-break second set, and it was 4-all in the tie-break in the second set. I'd won the first set, and the guy pulled me wide and came to the net, and I ran to hit a running forehand, and I hit a running forehand pass, and then I fell, and I broke my wrist. But I didn't know it was broken, so it was just kind of like, it was incredibly painful, but I thought it was just sprained. So I was up 5-4 I was up 5-4 serving, right? And I remember thinking, like, how am I gonna, obviously your adrenaline is pumping. So I served at 5-4, hit the serve, and the guy missed the return, right? So I hit the serve at like 70 miles an hour, and the guy missed the return. And then that was 6-4, and then I hit a serve. He played the ball back, and I hit a forehand like as hard as I could, or I kind of pushed it into a corner and came to the net. And he missed the pass, and I won the match. And then that night, like I couldn't hold a knife, I couldn't eat dinner, I couldn't hold anything. And then I just pulled out the next day, and then I came back and my wrist was broken. I was out for like 4 or 5 months, and I actually probably never played singles as well again after that, to be honest. Right. But it was sorry. And the question then was the pro stuff. So yeah, when I finished playing in college, I kind of knew that doubles was going to be more my game. Yeah, right. And then I went to my first couple of tournaments. I went to Israel with Michael Venus, who's obviously gone on to be top 10 in the world now, so he's a pretty good partner for futures. And so myself and Mike were there for a couple of weeks. And with the kind of ranking rules, we didn't get into doubles the first 2 weeks because of the ranking points. Yeah. And I was losing in qualies in singles, and then he was doing okay in singles. Like he was 300 in singles, his career high. He was a good singles player. And then the last week, we got into doubles. We were the last team in the doubles, and we won it. So that was my first kind of taste, and then it just went from there. Obviously, you're playing futures, and you're trying to move your ranking up slowly but surely, or obviously quickly if you can. And then it obviously went from there. So
now to bring you forward then to 2010, when you won the Irish Open. So how was that week, kind of being back at home and having success?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm in my apartment now, and I don't want to sound like really arrogant or anything. So, but like my trophies that I've won in futures, and the challengers I've won and stuff that I obviously still keep, they're all basically home in my family house. But I only have I have my Irish Open trophy here, so it shows you that it's like, it was a futures. It wasn't a challenger, an ATP event, but it still obviously it means a lot to me, like that we won that. So it was amazing. I'm trying to think back. I remember the final. We beat Colin Ebeltide and Barry King in the final. Who, obviously Kinger we knew really well and still be friends with. Like so. It was a tough match. It was there's pressure on. Like I think the semi-finals we beat Machir and Daniel Glancy, if my memory serves me correct. But and it was a very proud moment to win that event. And it was like, at Fitzwilliam, it was a great futures, and hopefully they can have it again in the future. Yeah. Hopefully it can be a challenger and all that sort of stuff. But memories wise, it was a great week. I loved it. Actually, Colin Ebeltide was staying with my family, which is funny enough as well. So we ended up beating him in the final. But it's something I look back on. It's definitely one of the tournaments that stands out for me, and delighted to have won it.
Yeah, no, just to move forward then to 2013 when you won two challengers back to back pretty much. So what do you think changed? That brought your level up to that from the futures. Like, what do you think changed those weeks?
Yeah, so I think it's a really good question. Like, I think it's something that I've thought about a lot. Like, I think at futures, you kind of get comfortable at futures level. So, it's like I kind of got to. I remember first playing futures, right? I could go off on a real tangent here, so just bring me back if I do.
No, no.
But like when I first went to futures and playing the Irish futures, you'd say, "Is that player any good?" And I remember people being like, "Oh yeah, he's got an ATP point, right?" So that was kind of your frame of reference of someone being a good player, is if they had an ATP point.
Yeah.
But you're kind of, I suppose, the goalposts get moved the whole time, right? So like I got to the stage in futures where when I walked into a future, if I didn't win or make the final of doubles, I would be unhappy. It wouldn't have been a good week. So it was kind of, that was the frame of reference, right? And then when you go to challengers, then there's definitely a bedding in period where like you're playing with a lot of guys who are ranked, who are playing the slams and who are, good top 100 players. So I think and I definitely think for an Irish person, when you initially go to these events, you kind of feel I felt a bit overawed in some ways that I didn't really know anyone there. I had friends at futures level, and then you go to the challengers and the French guys are with the French guys, the Spanish guys are with the Spanish. So there's that element where you're kind of a little bit uncomfortable. And it definitely took me a little bit of time to get my comfort level, there. But once you get comfortable there, like, yeah, like it's, I was obviously lucky enough to win those challengers. It was actually quite funny. Can I tell you the one from Istanbul, which happened?
Yeah.
So I was playing with Fabrice Martin, who, I sound like I was playing with unbelievable partners all the time. So Fabrice made the final of the French Open last year, and Fabrice would be one of my best friends. Like, and so he was playing singles as well, and we were supposed to play the Raduana brothers in the first round, and they're top 100 doubles team, and they've been consistently top 100. Like, and Fabrice played against this Turkish guy who was terrible, and it was really hot, and Fabrice was struggling singles wise in confidence level, and he cramped up and was like could barely finish the match because of cramps, and then came off the court and was like I was like, we may as well look at flights to go home or to go to the next event, because we can't play. We're supposed to play that afternoon against the Raduana brothers. So the Raduana brothers so Fabrice was on his computer looking at flights, and I was like, man, it's fine. Don't worry. These things happen when you're on the tour. Like, you're going to have good weeks and bad. And so he was thinking about, and he didn't book the flight anyway. And then we came out to play the Raduana brothers, and Fabrice kind of hobbled onto the court. And the Raduana brother, turned out one of them had hurt his back. So he'd pulled a muscle on his back. So they were just so we played a couple of games, and then they retired against us, right? So then Fabrice was able to, like, luckily didn't book the flight. He was able to recover, obviously. It was just cramps. And then we ended up winning the tournament going from there. So we beat Goffin in the next round, Goffin and Gabashvili in the second round. And then I can't remember who we beat in the semis. And then we beat Bryden Klein and someone Propaggio maybe in the final. But it's amazing, like in tennis, it's amazing. You're very, sometimes you just need a little bit of luck, right? You just need that little bounce of the ball, and you get lucky with a draw, you get lucky with someone getting injured, you get lucky with different things, and over the course of the year, you like to think it kind of evens out. But so that was pretty mad when I think back to it. Like,
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, like, as someone who's played obviously futures, challengers, and then a few ATPs, I wanted to ask you what you think the main differences are between the three. You kind of touched there on futures and challengers, but if you maybe brought ATP into it as well, what do you think the difference is when you go up to that level?
The ATP stuff, I played Bastad a couple of times, the ATP 250. yeah, like I probably wasn't around the level enough to be kind of, I don't think there's a huge difference, to be honest. Like I really don't.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's a huge difference between the really top guys. For me, the biggest difference is, why is someone 80 in doubles and 150 my ranking, or why is someone 80 in singles or 150 in singles? Like for me, on any given day, there's no difference really in the level.
Yeah.
Difference in the level. I think it's the consistency of being able to perform every week. I think it's like, for me, say winning a challenger, then losing first round, losing quarters, first round, win, as opposed to the guy who's 80 winning final, semi, win, there's that
Yeah. Yeah.
consistency week
Yeah.
on week. Like I look at a lot of players that I would have played doubles with and against. Like I'm more inspired by the guys who I knew who are like doing well. So like even people like Tennis Sangren, I never would have thought he would make, he would do so well in the
Yeah.
Australian Open. I never
Yeah.
could have called that. Guys like Radu Albot, he's someone I look at and be like, I played him a couple of times in doubles, and I saw McGee beat him in singles as well. I was there for that match. Like if you told me at that time that guy was going to be, a consistent top 100 player, I just wouldn't have seen it. Like so, and then there's other people that you knew were going to be class.
Yeah.
Goffin is probably the prime example for me of someone that, like, when I played him in Istanbul, if you had told me then that week, because I watched him play singles as well, if you told me that week that guy would be in the top 10 or top 15 in the world, I would have been like, no chance. Like,
Really?
I mean that makes me sound stupid. Like if you told me he was going to be 8 in the world, I'd be like, okay, top 50, yeah, top 30, yeah, okay, maybe, like, but top 10, no, I just wouldn't have seen it. Like,
that's really interesting that some people, they really just get like the most out of the game they have and just maximize it and get really far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like one of my regrets actually is, is kind of, I should have gone to more ATP events to just be a practice partner,
Right.
because I feel like, you can get stuck at a certain level. And I think you can, if you're at Futures level, if you're ranked 700 or 800 now, like you should definitely, even though you probably won't get any points, you might lose in qualies or whatever, I think it's good to go to a challenger just to experience the level and try and gradually start to get around it, Because when I went to Bastad those couple of times when I got in, I never felt like I really belonged, And I actually did.
Right. Yeah.
But I needed to be around that level more.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. To bring you on to Davis Cup for a bit. So I know you mentioned obviously back in college you really enjoyed that team atmosphere, and I guess Davis Cup is somewhere else where you would have got that a similar feeling to that. So how do you remember that first time, say, you were called up to Davis Cup? What memories do you have from that tie?
Yeah, so I mean, Davis Cup was one of my big goals as a kid. I remember in Swords they asked us to do, we were doing goal setting. It was like long-term goal. And I remember writing play Davis Cup for Ireland, but being like embarrassed. It's Swords Tennis Club. I was like 12 years old. I remember being kind of embarrassed to almost write it, like that they would laugh at me, But that was one of my big ambitions, and I was lucky enough. I actually played for. Maybe I retired the captains, but I played for like Owen Casey was my first captain, Sean Sorensen, Gary Cahill, and then Conor Nyland. Like I played one tie for Conor, but
Right.
so I played for 4 captains. So maybe I sent them into retirement. But no, unbelievable memories. Like when I went for that match in against Slovenia in Dublin, it's funny. Like I don't really have many pictures and stuff from it, but I remember the night before. I remember playing the practice week and not thinking that I was going to play because I was 19, and I thought Kevin Sorensen would play with I can't remember who it was. Connor played, and Kevin Sorensen, Steve Nuge. So I thought I had a chance to play. Like I didn't think I had a chance, but I didn't really think I was going to play. But I remember playing well in the practice that week, and I've been kind of full of confidence because I played a full collegiate season of high level doubles, you know.
Yeah.
And then I remember Owen coming to my room the night before, knocking on the door and being like, "You're in for doubles. You know, how do you feel?" And I remember being buzzing about it, like. And we played Grega Zlemja, who went on to be about 60 in the world,
Right.
and Luka Gregor, he's definitely a top 200 singles player, maybe 150. And yeah, we played really well. We were up 2-1. We lost the fourth set 7-6, and then lost the fifth 7-5. So, but I was happy with the way I played. Like, but my memories of Davis Cup are good. Sometimes I didn't play as well as I would have wanted. I think I put too much pressure on myself. But I always, you know, like I always played matches in Group 2. I always ended up playing, like, you know, I played Stahovsky with Owen Heavey. I played myself and Dave O'Hare played Max Murney and Burry.
Yeah.
You know, I did a lot of tough matches, like, but incredible memories, and I suppose that team, I do miss that, like that kind of the week of the team, kind of hanging out with the team, and you know, the practices and all that sort of stuff. I miss the camaraderie of it.
Yeah, yeah. So 2015, you retired. What main reasons were there for that when you made that decision?
Yeah, like it's a good question. Like I had little kind of shoulder injuries and niggles and stuff, but nothing kind of too bad. But I definitely was feeling my shoulder a little bit, but my ranking had stagnated, and I just wasn't enjoying it as much. I didn't, you know, I was traveling a lot, you know, and I also felt like I wanted to get into business as well. I had this kind of, I suppose, ambition to be in business. And I just thought, like, one of the things was, I think sometimes tennis players play too long. I think players are institutionalized by the sport. So players will go and play futures, and then they'll play challengers, or maybe they'll be in futures, but they'll just keep playing, and then their ranking is the same or it's dropping, and they just have nothing else to do. And they get kind of lost in the sport. Like, so I felt like I read this book, Robin Sharma wrote it, and I remember it was like, when you know, you know. And I just remember losing this match in Italy, and I just remember going back to the room. I just knew, like,
Okay.
I was like, I'm not enjoying this. I don't really want to go again at it. And I knew the time was right. So there was no kind of, like, you know, rhyme or reason, I guess, but it's just that was my feeling on it. And I did, like, post, when I stopped, I definitely had inklings then to kind of, like, oh, you're kind of thinking about going back to playing and all that sort of stuff. Now, I didn't really give it serious thought, but I think we always, you know, I think you're always going to have those thoughts that, you know, it's like a boxer. Like George Foreman said once, he's like, you always think you have one more punch, you know.
Yeah.
So I do miss playing, like.
Yeah, no, you mentioned your kind of ambitions for business, and I want to come on to that in a little bit. But first, I know you've worked with Richard Branson down on Necker Island, and you've spent time there. So just tell me a little bit about how that relationship started, and how the experience has been for you.
Yeah, so that's I mean, amazing. Like, so when I played Bashta, the ATP 250, I played with Andy Silstrom, and Andy, one of his college teammates is a guy, Trevor Short, who's the founder of this company called Premier Live, and they basically run the Necker Cup. And essentially what it is a casual pro-am where, like, Djokovic is being, Nadal is being, all these guys, and ladies as well. And business people come to the event and they play, you know, 10-point tiebreakers. So I reached out to Trevor. This is 2015. I ended up being introduced to Trevor, reached out to him, and said to him, kind of like, just said, look, this is my ranking. I'm not Novak Djokovic. I'm not Caroline Wozniacki, but I'd love to come, and I'll hit with the business people. So when the top pros are off kind of doing their thing, I said, you'll never be short a player. And I don't really know why he said yes, but he said yes. And I went in 2015, and I suppose it's amazing what that one kind of phone call has led to. So while I was at the event, then I obviously met Richard there, but I met Kenny, who runs Necker Island, and Kenny sent me an email about a month later saying would I come back and coach Richard tennis. So I've gone a good few times out I'd go for a month at a time and hit with him twice a day, coach him twice a day. Gone to London to him a few times as well. And I've taken him actually to Fitzwilliam once as well when he was in Dublin.
Okay.
When he was in Dublin, he was speaking at an event, so I took him to Fitzwilliam to play. Yeah, like an incredible experience. Very lucky to. I mean, that's the thing about tennis is, that I would be very positive about tennis in terms of, yes, financially it's very tough when you play, but I'd also be, the people that I've met through the sport, even if you take Necker out of it, the people that I've met through my sport and how it's helped me in terms of my life, and how it's a sport that you can play forever, and how, I become friends with one or two of the rugby guys. And I always, we were chatting about it and I said, like, they can't kind of take a business person out to play rugby or to kick a ball in the air or whatever, whereas I can take someone to play tennis. So Necker has been amazing for me, and like I would still be in contact with Richard, and he's been great to me. Like I couldn't say a bad word about him. Like,
yeah, no, it must be great to have those experiences. It must be incredible. But then I guess something else I want to touch on is the World 2018 and when you had your Guinness World Record attempt for the longest doubles match. So was there, obviously it's a remarkable achievement to play for that long, but was there a moment at any point when you really doubted that you'd manage it, you either before, or was there a point during when you almost gave up?
Yeah, like, I mean, it was really good. It's really good fun, actually, to be honest. Like, but I the only moment I doubted was Dan O'Neill. Dan was struggling at one stage with his, I don't even know, his back maybe. So like I didn't doubt myself, being honest, and I didn't doubt, say, Dave and then Luke as well. But then Dan at one point, I think it was like the second night maybe. I think it was the second night, through the night, he was really struggling, like. So we were really concerned that he was going to have to stop, So that was more the worry. Now, like, I was in a lot of pain, my feet, and but like we had great people there supporting us, like, and once we got to Sunday, once the sun came up on Sunday, I knew we were kind of golden, like, which is. Like, I've never ran a marathon or anything, but I know when people say, you go through the wall and all that sort of stuff, like, definitely when we got to Sunday, the sun came up and it was like the home straight, even though there was like, 10 hours to go, whatever it was, like, even though we still had a lot to do. But so yeah, like, I've good memories of it. Would I do it again? I don't know. Like, I don't know. If someone broke it, I don't know if we'd do it again, to be honest.
It might be the kind of thing you do once and then you've done it.
Yeah, like I do, originally I went to Dave with it, so I knew the guys attempted it in Brookfield a couple of years before. So Luke was part of they attempted and they did 33 hours and they stopped in Rathgar. So I was playing at the time and I thought, this is really interesting. Like, it seems like a good thing to do. And I thought, I went to Dave anyway and I asked Dave, would he be interested in it? And like, I have to say, like, if Dave had said no, I don't know if I would have done it. I don't know if I would have asked other people, but Dave said yes, and it just kind of went from there. Like, and obviously we got to enjoy tennis on board as well. So like, it was great. I've really happy memories from it.
Was there? How was the recovery after? Were there like weeks you just kind of didn't leave your bed or something? Was it tough?
Not really. Like, so I know that Dave was struggling a little bit health wise after it. Like, my feet were in ribbons, like, in terms of soreness, but I kind of like, I just kind of got on with things. I don't know. Again, back to your lessons from college tennis, like, I always think, sometimes the coach tells you what kind of fitness you're about to do in college, and you're kind of, you don't know how you're going to survive, like, but you kind of go into this mode where you just survive. So the aftermath, look, I was really tired, and it definitely took me a little bit to recover from, but my life didn't stop after it. Like, I just kind of, I was still, at the time I was in the recruitment agency, I was in Mason Alexander, so I was still there. So I was in work and stuff, basically. So it just, kept going.
You know, fair play. It's like it's an incredible thing to have done. I mean, you raised so much money obviously for Enjoy Tennis and got the record. So it's you know it's something you'll always have that you've done. You know, kind of on your
Yeah,
CV.
as
You
long
really
as
need
you're
to.
not plotting to break it or something in the
Well,
gravestones.
I don't think so. I don't think it's on my agenda.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier about when you retired, you kind of had all these ambitions for business, getting into business, and I know you have done that, and you've had a lot of success. And you mentioned your book coming out. So I know you founded a High Caliber Collective. Just tell me a little bit about that company and what you do there, kind of on a day to day, and just in general, what's kind of.
Yeah, so I suppose when I first to go back when I first stopped playing tennis, I did 3 months. I did an internship with Enda McNulty and his company McNulty Performance. So he was the sports psychologist for the Irish rugby team, and then he was
Okay.
in Google and Facebook and these companies. So I kind of went into that. I was always when I was playing, I was always interested in, I suppose, people development, performance. I was always reading a lot of books, like non-tennis books, so I was reading the kind of Tony Robbins and the entrepreneurial books, like, I don't know, all these kind of different people. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but when I stopped, and then I went into, after McNulty Performance, then I was kind of doing the stuff on Necker. And then I came back and I was in Mason Alexander, which is a recruitment agency. And I enjoyed that. Like, probably recruitment wasn't for me, but I enjoyed I suppose it was a good learning in terms of actually working, So did that. Now I was coaching tennis a few hours a week as well, just to kind of keep my hand in. And obviously I love tennis, like. But then I had this idea around High Caliber Collective. I was doing executive coaching qualifications in the background. So the way I started was I started hosting my own events. So I started bringing CEOs, small group of CEOs, and there'd be a topic for discussion. So it might be around leadership, it might be around work-life balance, it might be around high-performance culture, all these different types of things. And I really kind of leveraged the people that I knew through tennis. So like the CEOs and the C-suite executives that I knew through tennis that were very supportive. And then from that, then I started doing these events, and then the companies or the CEO started asking me into their companies. So I was really doing three things. I was doing a lot of speaking, so keynote speaking, where they would bring me into organizations to speak. I'd give an hour talk on high performance, on goal setting. So I really enjoyed that, actually. I mean, the first talk I was incredibly nervous, but it gets easier over time. I was doing hosting a lot of offsites for companies. So, team of 15 trying to hit a target. How are they hitting the target? Working with them around that. And then I was doing a lot of one-to-one coaching. So one-to-one executive coaching with individuals, very much around performance, around setting their goals, around achieving goals. And you see that sport and business, it's very similar, right? So then, I mean, obviously then things were going really well. Then the coronavirus, the speaking stuff is kind of gone at the moment, doing some webinars, and I'm kind of upped my one-to-one stuff, and then working on some kind of online offerings, and been working on the book. So things have been pretty good, and I always have ideas. I'm always working on ideas. So I had ideas around like a tennis app around connecting players and all this stuff, and I kind of like having, I guess, my core. I need to obviously pay the bills, so that's my core business is that, and then I like working on ideas on the side. So I always have different things I'm working on the side, basically, and that's kind of the way my mind works. I'm a little bit of a, I think as a tennis player, I think you have to be a bit of a dreamer. Like, you have to. I always dreamt of obviously playing Davis Cup, of winning Wimbledon, of all those types of things, and now I kind of dream of it. Now I listen to like entrepreneur talks, and it's kind of your mind, I suppose there's a bit of a shift there, but I'm happy enough. Like,
yeah, no, it's brilliant. And now as you come into, as we come into kind of the end, getting back to a bit more normal, what's something that you're excited about? Well, what's your kind of your future goals then with business or with anything?
So with the immediate goal, actually, the thing I'm most excited about is, so I went to Glendalough on the weekend, which I kind of broke the kilometer thing, I think. But so I'm really looking forward to actually going and doing stuff. Like I'm going to Achill I'm going to learn how to kite surf. I'm going to cycle a greenway in Waterford. I'm going to go to. I have all these ambitions of like little goals that I want to. I want to go and see Ireland, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I've obviously seen a lot of Ireland, but I want to go and do stuff. So I you know, that would be my immediate kind of. I think I personally think there'll be a resurgence in. Well, obviously there's going to be a lot of domestic travel, but I think people have been kind of cooped up. That people will have a new appreciation of nature and getting out. So I'm looking forward to doing that, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I just have a few more questions, James. I really appreciate
Yeah,
the
no
time.
worries.
It's great to talk. But just to bring it back to tennis a little bit, to look at Irish tennis. What do you think about Irish tennis at the moment? So I saw an article you wrote about clubs and about the ladder competitions in clubs. So maybe if you want to talk about that, or
You
something
should
else
do
like
your research.
in Irish tennis, anything you're like, what do you think about it?
Yeah, how long have you got? Like, like, I think there's definitely positive steps in terms of, you know, clay courts and stuff being in a lot of clubs. I saw Sutton have one now, and Fitz obviously had that clay court in, although Jane Fenley books it all the time. So, but no, the clay is really good, and Fitz are looking to get. I think there's a vote on maybe getting more clay, so that's good. So yeah, so like I think that's positive. I mean, I think the players. I think the previous generation did quite well. I mean, I think Connor obviously did really well. James was doing well in singles. Dave was doing well in doubles. I was doing well in doubles. So I think it's up to the next generation to, like, they need to step up, and they need to, you know, obviously it's hard for them to step up when there's no tournaments on, but you know, there's a global pandemic. But I think, you know, I think the players we need players that are playing challengers minimum, that are playing qualifying of slams. And, you know, I think there's obviously there's potential, there's good potential there, but I mean, there's so many people with good potential. Like, who cares? I mean, back to our conversation around like Albot and these people. Like, you know, potential is one thing. I mean, I've seen a lot of people with good potential, but it's actually getting out there and winning. And so, am I positive about the future of Irish tennis? At the moment, I mean, I think in the last couple of years, I think, you know, a lot of people are not playing domestic tournaments. So, you know, I might say, like, I mean, I played 2 summers ago. I think I played a couple of tournaments, and I played Intra-Pros as well. I enjoyed playing it, like, but I'm probably at a different stage of my life, you know. But I think the guys who are currently playing need to play the likes of the indoors. There needs to be, yeah, like, I mean, my memories as a kid is going and watching Casey play Barron in singles in the Riverview final, right?
Yeah.
And there was a stand up, and that, like, you know, and obviously Tennis Ireland, the indoors has kind of lost its allure in the last few years. You know, it's like there used to be a stand and everything for it. So, but I think there's an onus on the players to actually support domestic tournaments as well. And you know, there was decent. I mean, obviously it could change now, but there was decent prize money for tournaments, and the players weren't really playing, like.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing I would say is, and I said this a couple of years ago, like, that I was lucky enough to get some funding from the Sports Council at one stage, and my point is that, look, a lot of players are complaining about money, and, you know, and rightly so. Like, I have no problem with that, but, like, a lot of players are complaining about funding and lack of funding and all that sort of stuff. But, like, there's an onus on players to actually do something in return for the funding. So, like, I think when I got that money from the Sports Council, that Tennis Ireland should be able to say to me, like, for 3 hours in the year, or maybe you have to go and give the prizes for the parks, or you have to do something. There has to be a reciprocal arrangement with sponsorship, like, and with funding. So, so, you know, I think Tennis Ireland have a tough job. I think coming into the climate, I think it's going to be tough in terms of sponsors and finding that, like. But yeah, like, I mean, I look at, like, I think the success of Irish tennis personally has been, and we have been successful, and the reason we've been successful is the collegiate route. So like you've guys like John Dorn, who now lives in London, who went to Harvard, Owen Heavey went to Cal Berkeley, Connor going to Cal Berkeley, Barry King, Notre Dame. Like tennis, what you should be selling to the parents is that is their tennis career is getting them like academic scholarship or athletic scholarship, which is obviously amazing, right? And that's the success. And I don't think we should be selling parents a dream of being like a top 50 tennis player. I think it's more I think college is the way to go, and then the cream rises to the top, and then the players can play professionally. But yeah, like I think the players, like I have so much admiration for people like Julian Bradley, right? So Julian I would have played towards the end of my career. I would have hit with Julian a lot when I came home. I've so much admiration for him, like, and a lot of the guys. But I think we need to get players and challengers and ATPs. We need to get, maybe I'm rambling a bit, but like it's important. Like it's important that we get out of Group 3 and Davis Cup. It's like these things are important. Like
it's really interesting to hear you talk about all those different things that are maybe changed a bit since you were playing and are have changed a bit and still need to change in some cases.
Yeah, like I suppose I'm concerned that there's not going to be a player who's playing qualifying of a slam in the next couple of years. Really, like, I mean, if you look at Simon, Peter. Now, I'm not speaking as much on the girls' side. I know I've hit with Georgia a few times, and I think Georgia has, she's obviously in college. I think she has great potential as well. So I'm not as I'm more talking about the men on when I'm speaking about this, but on the men's side, like when are we going to have a player who's playing qualifying of Grand Slams? I'm not sure it's going to be in the next couple of years. Like I'm not sure, Simon, his ranking trajectory, his ranking is going to go up, but is he going to be in a Grand Slam qualifying in the next year? Probably not. Is he going to be in the 2 years? Like it's going to take time for, he's obviously young and obviously Peter's still around as well. But I mean, I'm asking the hard question is when is someone going to play? First question is when is someone going to play qualifying for a slam, and then when is someone going to play main draw of a slam?
Yeah.
So it's almost like Connor, Connor making it to 129 in the world and playing in a couple of slams, right? Like I obviously played doubles, but I still looked at Connor and I was like, look, I'm training with this guy, I'm hitting with this guy, I'm traveling with him. I'm a good player. Like he gave me confidence to go and achieve, right?
Yeah.
And then James McGee came along, and James was unlucky with different things, but James is 150 in singles, played slam, played the US Open. So I think Connor kind of dragged the level on a little bit, and then I obviously was on the double side. I was 145. Then Dave comes out of college. I played with Dave a bit. I traveled with Dave. Then Dave goes and is really good player and kind of raises the bar a little bit. So I think that's the whole thing, is that like it needs to be pushed on. Like there needs to be momentum there, and players need to keep pushing forward. And then at the moment there's a bit of a lull because those guys they're not at the rankings, and it's going to take them time. Like,
yeah.
So that would be that's my concern is when are we going to have a player playing qualities of slam?
It's really interesting. All those, that's good questions you're asking, really interesting points. To bring it back to you for a bit before we finish up, what do you think is the best place you've ever been for tennis?
Apart from Necker Island, is it?
We'll say apart from Necker Island.
So the best place I've ever been.
The best place I've ever
been. Like that Bastad event that wins ATP 250 of the year every year. I mean, that's incredible. It's kind of a resort basically, so that place would be up there. And then I played at Futures actually in if the question's kind of around like the best tennis court or best tennis place.
Yeah.
I played the Futures in Los Angeles, and we met this guy Kelly, and he brought us to. He was like, "Do you want to play tennis at the coolest court in LA or whatever?" So he brought us to. Have you ever seen the movie The Big Lebowski?
No, no.
Okay, so hopefully your listeners. It was basically on top of it. It was basically on top of LA, overlooking the whole city, and there was a tennis court there, and it was. I've never been on a night. Well, apart from Necker, I've never been on a nicer tennis court in my life. So those two probably, or
Yeah.
three actually.
Yeah, great.
Or maybe Greystone's court 1.
Yeah. That's the one. Well, if you were to give advice to junior players, what advice would you give to them?
My advice would be. My philosophy has always been get around good people. So surround yourself with good people. If I was a junior player now, I would, obviously, if we're speaking in a perfect world now where tournaments are going on, because obviously things have changed a little bit, but like, I would play all the domestic tournaments. So I think another rant I have is like a lot of players have stopped playing a lot of juniors, and have maybe they just want to play Fitzwilliam and they don't want to play other events, and they're training and all this stuff. I think there's a lot to be said for having pressure on you, because when you go to college or when you play professional or you play Davis Cup, you're under pressure to win. And I think it's good to have the pressure where you're the favorite and you have to win. You have to deliver. And then I also think there's an element where if I was a junior player, I would be encouraging to go to like big tournaments, go and see the level, see what you're trying to aspire to, try and hit with these players, get comfortable around them. That would be really my advice.
Absolutely, I think that's some great advice. I think, especially about to keep playing all the events. It's really good. And a final question: what's your favorite thing about tennis?
My favorite thing about tennis is, I suppose, two things. One is I love the competitive aspect of it. Like I miss the really competitive piece, and then the second piece is friends. Meeting people and friends and camaraderie, and like I've met some amazing people through tennis and people that you'd be friends forever with. Like,
yeah, no, I think the great thing about that answer, it applies to anyone that's playing tennis. Even if you're playing you're playing leagues in your club, whatever your standard is, that those two things can apply to everyone. So I think that's really good.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to sound cliche, but it is a sport for life.
Yeah, exactly. James, I think we'll wrap it up there. I've taken up enough of your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. It's been fantastic. So thanks very much for your time.
No worries. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, it's great. Thank you. Big thanks once again to James for his time. I'd encourage you to check out his book. To do so, go to hccollective.co and follow the link for Advantage Book. So please do check that out if you have any interest. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did enjoy speaking to James. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it and subscribe, leave a comment or a review. I hope you're all doing well. Until next time, I've been Adam. Goodbye.